The clerk found a receipt on the counter with their own name and time of death printed on it. The receipt was waiting for them when they came back from the stockroom, curled slightly at the edges like it had been warm once. At first, they thought it belonged to a customer. Someone had a habit of leaving trash everywhere. The night shift attracted that kind of carelessness. Coffee rings on the counter, crumpled lottery tickets, damp bills that smelled like pockets and old rain. The clerk picked up the receipt between two fingers. It was still crisp, warm enough to suggest it had been printed recently. The register screen behind it glowed blue and empty, idle timer ticking down. No transaction history, no open order. The name printed near the top stopped them cold. Elias Morrow. That was their name. Not a common one. Not something you mistook for someone else's. Below it, in the neat, emotionless font of the receipt printer, was a timestamp. 2:17 a.m. Below that, a line they didn't recognize as part of any system the store used. Time of death. For a moment, Elias just stared. The hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to deepen, thickening the air until it felt pressurized. Somewhere in the store, the refrigeration unit kicked on with a metallic groan. Outside, the wind slid through the parking lot, pushing grit against the windows. Elias checked their watch. 1:58 a.m. They laughed once. Sharp and too loud. The sound echoed strangely in the empty store, as if it had bounced off surfaces that weren't there. "Okay," they said to no one. "Okay." The receipt felt heavier now. Elias flipped it over. Blank. No item list. No total. Just their name and that time, printed with the same indifferent certainty as a pack of gum or a gallon of milk. They looked at the register again, then at the security mirror in the corner. Their reflection stared back, pale under the lights, eyes rimmed with fatigue. Nothing wrong. No blood. No shadow behind them. Still, their hands shook as they tore the receipt in half. The printer chirped. Elias froze. Another receipt slid out, smooth and unbroken, settling neatly on the counter. Same name, same time, same line. Time of death. Their throat tightened. The store suddenly felt enormous, aisles stretching farther than they should, shelves bending away into dimness. Elias backed away from the counter, heart hammering. "No," they whispered. They pulled the plug from the receipt printer. The lights above the counter flickered in response, dimming for half a second before stabilizing. The store didn't go quiet. The hum remained. The refrigerator kept breathing. The printer, unplugged, printed another receipt. This one slid out slowly, as if savoring the moment. Elias staggered back until they hit the candy rack. The smell of sugar and cardboard filled their nose. Their pulse roared in their ears, loud enough to drown out everything else. They grabbed the phone beneath the counter and dialed the store manager. Straight to voicemail, then 911. The call rang, then clicked into static. Not the hiss of a bad signal. Something wetter, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Elias hung up. They checked the time again. 2:03 a.m. 14 minutes. The automatic doors at the front of the store slid open with a hollow whoosh. Elias spun around. The parking lot was empty. No headlights. No footsteps. The doors stayed open longer than usual before sliding shut again, their sensors apparently satisfied by nothing at all. The bell above the door jingled anyway. Elias swallowed and forced themselves back to the counter. They needed proof. Something rational. A prank. A glitch. They logged into the register. Transaction history. Blank. No record of anything printing. No errors. The system behaved as if nothing had happened. Another receipt appeared. This one had changed. Time of death. 2:17 a.m. Location. Aisle 3. Elias felt their legs weaken. Aisle 3 held canned goods and dry pasta. Narrow. Poorly lit. The far end was always dimmer than the rest of the store. One flickering bulb the manager kept meaning to replace. "I'm not going back there," Elias said, voice shaking. Saying it out loud didn't make it feel truer. The lights over aisle 3 flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. Elias took a step back, then another. until their shoulders pressed against the cigarette display. They could smell tobacco through the packaging, stale and sharp. The store felt wrong now. Not hostile. Expectant. Their watch ticked loudly. 2:09 a.m. They tore down the receipt board behind the counter, ripping the thin cork from the wall. Receipts scattered like dead leaves. The printer spat another one out immediately. 2:11 a.m. Location updated. Elias didn't read it. They grabbed their jacket from the hook and ran for the door. The automatic doors didn't open. They slammed their hands against the glass. Nothing. The sensor light stayed dark. "Open," Elias said, then shouted it, then screamed. The glass reflected their face back at them. Distorted, mouth too wide, eyes shining with panic. Behind their reflection, the aisles seemed longer than before, stretching into a dim, impossible depth. The bell jingled again. Footsteps echoed from aisle 3. Slow, deliberate, too heavy for a customer. Elias slid down the glass, breath coming in short gasps. Their watch read 2:13 a.m. The printer chirped, soft and cheerful. The receipt drifted across the counter and fluttered to the floor at Elias's feet. They didn't want to look. They looked anyway. Time of death, 2:17 a.m. Cause, transaction complete. The footsteps stopped. The lights went out in the back of the store, one row at a time, darkness rolling forward like a tide. The hum deepened, becoming something lower, almost a voice stretched too thin to recognize. Elias stood, shaking, and turned toward aisle 3. They could see movement there now. Not a person. Not exactly. A shape that borrowed the idea of a human silhouette and failed to understand it. Too tall. Too narrow. Its edges blurred like heat distortion. It was holding something. A receipt. "Please," Elias said, though they weren't sure to whom. The shape stepped into the light. The bulb over aisle 3 burst, showering sparks that faded before they hit the floor. 2:16 a.m. The printer screamed. Paper poured out in a continuous stream, piling onto the counter, spilling onto the floor. Every receipt bore the same name, the same time, the same certainty. Elias felt a sudden calm settle over them, heavy and unnatural, pressing the fear down into something distant and manageable. They understood then not what the thing was, but what the store was. A register, a place where things were counted, finalized, closed out. The shape raised its receipt. 2:17 a.m. The lights snapped back on. The automatic doors slid open. Morning staff arrived an hour later to find the counter spotless, the register idle. No sign of struggle, no broken glass, no blood, just a single receipt on the counter, curled at the edges. Elias Morrow, 2:17 a.m. Beneath it, in smaller print, a line no one noticed until the end of the shift. Next customer. The bell above the door rang at 12:41 a.m., thin and tired, like it had rung too many times already tonight. I glanced up from the counter. The store looked the way it always did at that hour. Fluorescent lights humming, aisles too bright against the dark windows, the smell of hot dust and old coffee clinging to everything. Outside, the parking lot was empty except for my car and a dead moth stuck to the glass. The customer who walked in paused just inside the doorway, as if letting the air settle around him. He was an ordinary man, mid-30s maybe, average height, average build. Brown jacket zipped halfway, jeans worn soft at the knees, dark hair combed to the side. He nodded once in my direction, polite, distracted, and went straight to aisle 4. I went back to my crossword. A minute later, he placed a single item on the counter. A bottle of water. Same brand we sold by the case. Condensation beaded along the plastic. "Evening," I said. "Evening," he replied. His voice was unremarkable. Slight rasp like he'd talked too much that day. I rang it up. He paid in cash, exact change, and watched the register with more interest than the transaction deserved. When the drawer closed, he picked up the bottle, nodded again, and left. The bell rang. The door shut. The store exhaled. I didn't think about him again until the bell rang at 12:49. Same sound. Same tired note. He walked in the same way, paused at the threshold, brief look around, then aisle 4. I frowned, more confused than alarmed. People came back for things all the time. Forgot something. Changed their mind. When he reached the counter, though, I felt a small hitch in my chest. It was the same man. Same jacket. Same hair. Same face. But not exactly. His jacket hung a little looser, like it had been worn longer. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his skin slightly sallow. When he set the bottle of water on the counter, his fingers lingered on it, nails bitten down unevenly. "Evening," I said again, slower this time. "Evening," he replied. Same word, same tone, but his voice sounded strained, as if he were pushing it through clenched teeth. I rang it up. Same price. This time he paid with a different set of bills. Older, creased, smelling faintly of cigarettes. As I handed him the receipt, our fingers brushed. His skin was colder than it should have been. He met my eyes then, really looked at me, like he was trying to memorize my face. "Long night," he said. "Yeah," I answered automatically. He smiled. It didn't quite fit his face. When he left, the store felt subtly rearranged. The hum of the lights seemed louder, the air heavier, tinged with something sour, like metal left in the rain. I checked the time. 12:52. I told myself it was coincidence. Fatigue. My brain playing tricks on me the way it did when the hours stretched thin and lonely. At 1:03, the bell rang again. This time I knew before I looked up. He moved slower now, shoulders hunched, jacket unzipped though the night was cold. His hair was mussed, darker at the roots with sweat or oil. There was a smell when he passed, sharp, acidic, like unwashed skin and damp earth. Aisle 4. Same bottle. When he reached the counter, he didn't greet me. He just stared at the water, as if unsure what it was. I rang it up without asking. His hands trembled as he paid. Coins clinked onto the counter, one after another, counted carefully, obsessively. When he spoke, his voice was lower, hoarse. "Does this place ever close?" he asked. 6, I said. He nodded like that confirmed something terrible. As he turned to leave, he hesitated, then leaned closer to the counter. "If someone keeps doing the same thing," he said softly, "do you think it makes it different?" Before I could answer, he walked out. The bell rang. The silence afterward pressed in on me, thick enough to feel in my ears. I stepped out from behind the counter and looked down aisle 4. The shelf where the water bottles sat looked disturbed, as if someone had brushed against it repeatedly, again and again, wearing down the space around it. My reflection in the freezer door looked wrong. Paler, stretched. The bell rang at 1:14. The fourth version barely looked human. His jacket was gone. His shirt clung to him, stained dark beneath the arms and at the collar. His face sagged, eyes sunken, mouth pulled tight in constant pain. He walked with a limp, dragging one foot slightly behind him. The smell hit me first, rotting leaves, sweat, something faintly chemical. He didn't go to aisle 4. He went straight to the counter and set the bottle down hard enough that it thudded. I hadn't seen him pick it up. His eyes flicked to the register, then to me, darting and unfocused. "Just ring it," he said. His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. I did. He didn't pay right away. He leaned in, close enough that I could see the burst capillaries in his eyes, the way his pupils trembled. "I tried," he whispered. "I really did." I swallowed. "Sir, doesn't matter," he interrupted. "It never does." He slapped a wad of bills onto the counter. They were damp. I didn't want to think about why. As he turned, I noticed something carved into the back of his hand. 5 shallow lines, scored into the skin, half-healed. The bell rang as he left, but the sound was wrong. Muted, like it was underwater. I locked the register drawer and backed away, heart pounding. Every instinct told me to run, to leave the store, to get in my car and never look back. But my feet stayed planted. The clock ticked over to 1:22. The lights flickered. The bell rang. The fifth version of the man stood in the doorway for a long time before stepping inside. He was thinner now, too thin. His clothes hung off him like they belonged to someone else. His skin had taken on a grayish cast, stretched tight over sharp bones. His eyes were bright, feverish, fixed on me with terrible clarity. He smelled like the air before a storm, ozone and dust. He carried the water bottle carefully, cradled in both hands. When he set it on the counter, I saw that the plastic was cracked, the label peeling away. The water inside sloshed sluggishly, thick. "Fifth time's the charm," he said. His voice was calm, resigned. I didn't reach for the scanner. My hands were numb. "What do you want?" I asked. He smiled, and this time it fit perfectly. "To finish," he said. The register turned on by itself. The screen flickered, then displayed a total I didn't recognize. I looked down. The item description read, "Water, attempt, quantity, 5. Below it, in smaller text, "Identity balance due." I looked back up at him. "You see it now," he said gently. "I kept hoping you wouldn't." The store felt suddenly enormous, stretching backward into darkness, aisles looping and folding into themselves. I understood then not the how but the shape of it. He hadn't been buying water. He'd been trying to stay. Each time he came back, something wore away. A little memory, a little self. 5 versions, peeling off one after another, trying to complete the transaction that would let him leave whole. "And me?" I asked. His eyes softened. "You're the clerk," he said. "You make sure the exchange is fair." The bell rang behind him, though the door never opened. I looked down at the register, at my reflection warped in the screen. For the first time that night, I noticed the 5 shallow lines on my own hand. The total weighted. So did the store.